llega la clave. Suena el bongo, hazme un tumbao, que el ritmo lo pongo yo.
Hola.
Hola.
So what are we doing today?
So today we are running down a list of all the tips and tricks that we've thought of since being here.
And where are we at?
We're at the Botanical Gardens again.
The
It's so beautiful.
Botanical Gardens. I think we should make this our first tip. What did we do for Valentine's Day?
We came here and it was beautiful.
And we are back again. Why?
It's only like $10 per person. And if you pay and keep the receipt, you can come back within the week another time. So it's more like $5 per person if you're gonna come back within the week.
Get some bang for your buck. There's your first tip.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna start with some tips and tricks for the car. We did drive here. It took 7 days. I really thought that it would only take 2 days because it said like 48 hours on Google Maps. But I guess that's like if you drove straight through, no sleeping, on Adderall, whatever. So yeah, we made stops every night and it took a long time. But along the way, we came up with some tricks and tips. So definitely you need car insurance to even bring your car over here.
Before you even leave.
Yeah, and we'll link like all the things we end up using, including the Mexican car insurance that we used. If your American car insurance is not likely to cover you in Mexico, so you are gonna need a separate Mexican insurance coverage. Keep a spare tire. Use the kilometers on your car. So like we usually use miles, like on the
miles per
speedometer, miles per hour. But the smaller numbers, the inside numbers, those are actually kilometers.
Metric system.
You need to make sure that you're training your eye to look at those like inside numbers, which is the kilometers. You're not allowed to have artificial tint on your windows. We were like asking a bunch of people whether we should get tint just for a couple of reasons, to feel safer, more private, and for shade purposes. But actually a lot of times the police will just rip your tint right off if it's not manufactured like on there. So I would not get tint solely for the purpose of coming.
Speaking of police, be prepared when you come that you will get pulled over for a real reason like us or a bullshit reason. But nonetheless, it will happen if you're going to stay for a month or longer. So you should always have cash on you in the
and
car.
We'll mention that like again later on, just to reiterate it, because it is quite an important thing to remember. A lot of people here use hazards for passing. So like some cars will drive really slow and they'll put on their hazards to let you know that it's okay to pass around them. You want to look out for potholes and speed bumps, and some speed bumps are marked and some are unmarked. They have like little yellow lines on them.
There's just a couple speed bumps and potholes.
There's a lot
just
of
a couple
speed bumps and potholes. So yeah, you're definitely going to want to be careful when you're driving to make sure you're not hitting anything that you're not supposed to be hitting. And
you want that
up
extra
your
tire.
tires.
Yeah, get that extra
absolutely.
tire.
You're going to want to keep your plates hidden if you have out-of-state plates. Like if you don't have a car that has a Mexican plate on it, we always make sure that we're parking with our butt, like the bumper, facing a wall or another car, so that, you know, we're not like targeted for any specific reason. We bought a shade cover before coming, so that whenever we park in a place where it's really sunny, which is everywhere because it's PV, it's Mexico, we're very close to the equator, we just put the shade cover up and it keeps it a little bit cooler. It's not like a whole lot cooler, which brings me to my next point. You're gonna want to cool off your car like 5 minutes before you go anywhere, because it is boiling in there.
So I got these, my mobile fans. Get them off Amazon, $20.
Definitely recommend those. I don't get very hot,
but I do.
Yeah, I would get those. Before you hop on the highway to come to Mexico, or even like at the Mexican highway that that you're on once you do cross the border, it's really long stretches with no gas station. So definitely recommend filling up all the way on gas before making that trip on over.
Whenever you're on the highway, fill up any opportunity that you get.
Yes. And then speaking of, when you are in Mexico, a lot of times the highways have like multiple lanes, and the middle lane is not forward turning at all. That's why we got pulled over. We made an illegal U-turn from the middle lane.
Specifically in the city.
U-turns are not illegal if you're in the right lane. We were in the middle lane and we got pulled over for that. So don't make the same mistake we did.
If you're on the highway in the city, it'll be right up the middle of the street. You have to merge off of it first and then U-turn. We didn't do that. We got pulled over.
We were pulled over for a real legit reason, and they did do all the right steps of taking our ID, and they weren't going to give it back. I was being the corrupt one and said, hey, can we pay now this fine so that we don't have to go through all the steps of getting the ID back later?
And they looked around.
I left my ID at home, and they said that we could do that, not where we were because people were looking, but that if we followed them onto like the shoulder of a highway where, you know, people can't really stop to look, that we could do it there. So I paid 800 pesos and we got his ID back, and we saved ourselves a lot of time and trouble.
Whenever you can pay the fine now, do it.
Yeah. Okay.
But also, I think that we should hit on how important it was to have a Spanish speaker with you in that moment. Because if I didn't have her, I would have been I would have had to go through the whole bureaucracy of getting my license back, and it would have been days, because I don't know how to ask to pay the fine now, but she could speak Spanish. So if you're going to be driving in Spain, having a Spanish, excuse me, if you're going to be driving in Mexico, have a Spanish speaker, because you need to be able to deal with stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay. Some traffic lights don't always work. We experienced that like on one of our main roads that we take to leave and enter like where our house is. So just go with the flow, like see what other people are doing. Yeah.
Treat it like a stop sign, sort of.
Yeah. Speaking of stop signs, they don't do like full stops here. They do rolling stops. So again, go with the flow, rolling stop.
I've even heard of people that have gotten pulled over for doing too long of a stop. I've never seen that, but you know, just something to consider.
All right, my last 2 tips, because then we're going to move to a different spot, is head on a swivel, always when you're driving.
No one uses their turn signal.
No one uses their turn signals, and there are bikers and motorcyclists that will swerve in between the cars, in between the lanes, so you're always going to want to, you know, be on the lookout for that. Don't just make a sudden movement over, because it's highly likely that a biker is going to be there and you'll hit them. And my last tip, jumper cables or a self-jumper kit. We left our lights on one time and accidentally ran out our battery. It took a lot of talking to a lot of different people, and a lot of people didn't have jumper cables. So if we had jumper cables, many more people would have been able to help us, but we didn't. We ended up getting a self-jumper system, so yeah.